Social Media and Mental Illnesses in Teens by Han Lee, Mario Montes, Brandon Griffin, and Connor Randall. Background of social media. Social media is any digital platforms that change the way people socialize. Since it started in the early 2000s, it has now grown to over 5 billion users today. According to NIH, also known as the National Institute of Health, over 93% of teenagers ranging from 12 to 17 years old were connected to social media. The percentage of U.S. teens with major depression. As you can see, from 2004 to 2020, the number of boys with depression has increased by 161%, and girls have increased by 145% since 2010. Now, why does this happen? Well, a quote from Yale Medicine is that exposure to social media can overstimulate the brain's reward center, and when the stimulation becomes too excessive, it can trigger pathways comparable to addiction. This is because using social media and technology releases dopamine, which is known as the feel-good chemical in a human brain. It makes you want more of whatever you are using, so it makes you addicted to using social media. What is a mental illness? Mental illnesses are any health condition that alters a person's way of thinking or mental state. This can be emotions or any other form of mental illness. It can take many different forms. There are depression, anxiety, many others that can come, all stemming from the similar cause of addiction or social media. Now, our problem is that there are many mental illnesses that arise from using social media. And the solutions we thought of were parents limiting time spent, as well as federal governments changing digital rights on social media.
The first solution that we recognized was that parents limit adolescents' time spent on social media. This solution would cause parents to be more involved in their child's use of social media, and it would also cause them to determine what is and is not appropriate for their child. So, limit to social media has also yielded many benefits to mental health in adolescents. Yolanda Chasiokas from the Department of Pediatrics in Los Angeles, California, recommended that parents should be encouraged to develop personalized family media use plans for their families that attempt to each child's age, health, temperament, and developmental stage. Some family use plans they could use would be tech zone-free areas. This would cause adolescents to not have access in certain areas. Another way they could use is parental control applications that, as well as setting time limits, they could also block certain applications. The impacts of this would be that it would limit the amount of time spent on social media and would have the largest effect on adolescents depending on how their parents enforce the screen time. It would also help lessen the amount of time that is spent on social media, which helps adolescents' mental health. Some of the limitations for social media would be mostly depend on parents, because it is ultimately the parents' decision to set limits for their child. And also, teens might find a workaround certain applications that block their screen time or rules set by their parents.
Our second solution is federal government changing digital rights to social media. This solution proposes that federal government steps in to change features on social media. My quote is, "Removal of the like button could reduce approval-seeking practices. Many adolescents felt that compulsive monitoring of feedback on their posts was fueled by the desire to fit in and triggered anxiety. If government stepped in to enforce social media companies to get rid of the like button, this would reduce approval-seeking practices." Impacts of federal government changing rules. Changing rules for social media usage may affect people's rights to freely use social media. This would affect everyone who uses social media, mainly people who spend a lot of time on it. Limitations. While this could help people who have problems with usage, it may hurt people who have a casual relationship. This solution isn't too realistic, as it could go against people's rights, which would make it an inviable solution.
intentionally limiting time spent on social media is the best way to prevent or lessen its negative impacts on mental health. Reducing time spent on social media can have many beneficial effects on mental health, such as increasing productivity, strengthening in-person relationships, and developing better sleep habits. Overall, reducing social media use is the better solution to fighting mental illness because it encourages healthier face-to-face interactions and removes unrealistic standards, which often contribute to anxiety and depression. So why is this solution better? It allows parents to be more heavily involved in their child's digital life. And research shows that mental well-being sees a significant increase when less time is spent on social media. Another reason why limiting time on social media is a better option is because there are several limitations of changing digital rights. One major issue with this idea is that one can argue that the government is being too controlling over human rights. On top of that, there isn't sufficient evidence to back this idea up. In conclusion, overusing social media is one of the major reasons behind mental illness in adolescents. Limiting time on social media because is the best solution to fighting the mental health crisis because it reduces exposure to negative content and unrealistic standards, helping adolescents build a more positive self-image and healthier self-esteem.
And here is our opportunity.
Nice.